they've been smashed to bits. How do we get up again after we finally call it quits? You were stone from the mountain, chisel hope up on the face, whittle down a prayer, no matter how long it takes. How do we keep believing the dream of Martin Luther King? Murderers still walk free because of the color of their skin. Can we stay optimistic when our leaders ignore the facts? How do we inspire our children with our schools under attack? You were stone from the mountain, chisel hope up on the face, whittle down a prayer, no matter how long it takes. Cross the oceans between us and them. Where do we find the love to treat our enemies as friends? How do we hold our heads when we're too stressed to think? How do we find our footing as we lean over the brink? You were stone from the mountain, chisel hope up on the face, whittle down a prayer, no matter how long it shakes. As rain carves canyons, change takes its time. Trust the change is coming, believe we will rise, we will rise. On the other side, we will rise, on the other side.
Well, if you were here last week, you got we had new cards, new jar cards, right? And I have misplaced them, so they're probably in the jar, but I forgot about them till now. So next week you'll have a chance to fill one of those out if you haven't, and I'll start reading them next week as well. But let's take a deep breath and bring ourselves now into this moment. There's always so much activity here on Sunday morning at Spiritual Soul Center. There's a lot to do, a lot of connections to be made, but now is the time. Now is the time to breathe in and breathe out and bring our whole selves right here. What I've been remembering in my meditations this week is all of living happens in the moment. To remind myself that all of my living, all of our living happens in the moment. And in this moment, we've chosen to be here, to sit together, to open our hearts, our minds, to be aware, to be willing to leave everything as it is and to be present in ourselves. It is there in that place where we can come to know not only God, but our own nature as children of God, as expressions of the divine. It is in the stillness, in that place of not before and not after, but now. Grateful for this. Grateful for this we are. And so it is. Amen.
Stay the course, though the path is hard to see, overgrown with vines and weeds. You don't know where it leads. You're never lost, even if you feel like you've been tossed deep into the woods. This path you're on was made for you. To grow, you gotta stretch yourself. It's gonna hurt like hell to be as big as you are. And I know you feel like a mess sometimes. I promise you'll be alright. Even when things get hard, you're exactly where you need to be. Trust yourself, you hold the key. Yeah. Stay the course, though the path is hard to see, overgrown with vines and weeds. You don't know where it leads. Never lost, even if you feel like you've been tossed deep into the woods. This path you're on was made for you. Take it slow, there's no need to race to the end. Got your family and friends standing by your side. Be sure to say I love you, because our paths may end too soon. Be thankful for this time. You're exactly where you need to be. Trust yourself, the you I see. Yeah. Stay the course, though the path is hard to see, overgrown with vines and weeds. Yeah, don't know where it leads. You're never lost, even if you feel like you've been tossed deep into the woods. This path you're on was made for you. Made for you. This path you're on was made for you.
What does it mean to serve? You know, what does it mean to serve? You know, at Spiritual Soul Center, you know, that's our middle word. Grow, serve, transform. I was clear about that when I filled out the application for the 501c3 that makes us a nonprofit. I was like, grow, serve, transform. That's how it happens. I've said to you before here, you know, we grow spiritually, we serve others, and then transformation happens. That's the way it works. And then what we do here is we help a lot of people, right? Look at our at the fellowship hall over there. We have all this makings for the breakfast bundles for Nourish NC. Some of you brought that stuff in today, right? We're going to be making these. We're going to help people who don't have enough to eat, young children who don't have enough to eat. That's what we do. We serve others. We see a need. You see a need, and you fulfill that need the way you can, right? That's what service is about. But I decided that that's not quite right. Because I think there's a difference between helping people and serving people. There's a difference between helping and serving. They are not the same. The problem is when we see someone who needs our help, we judge them as less than. We judge them as needing our help. They need supplies. They need our money. They need our time. They need us to be there to lend a hand. And we see them and look at them as someone that's less than when we look at them that way. And we may help them. We may end up having a result that actually helps them, but are we serving them? That's what I was thinking about this week, because there's a difference between help and serve. You know, when we are generous, we feel good about that, don't we? Do we feel good about ourselves? When we are benevolent, it sounds like like I'm up here and you're down there, and aren't you lucky to have me here to give you what I can give you? To be philanthropic. You know, all these big words about those who think they are serving others. When they're giving, they're certainly giving and they're helping, but are we serving? You know, Jesus said in the Gospels, the kingdom of God is among us and within us. So if the kingdom of God is among us and within us, then we should be able to see God everywhere, right? We should be able to look at whoever and whatever is in front of us and recognize that as God. So when we are helping others, is that what we see? Do we see God? Or do we see something less than? And how can there be anything less than when everything is God? You see my dilemma when I sit in my chair at home. Because these are the things I think about. These are the things I think about. You know. And so, if there's only one source, how can anyone be anything less than God? Yeah, you know, I believe that. I believe that one source. And so, what if, I was thinking, what if those we see and look as if they are in need are actually here to serve us? What if our service is about being able to see God in them as they are? And maybe, yes, we help, and there's nothing wrong with helping, by the way. It's not like helping is bad and service is good. It's helping is help, but service is something else. Service is an elevated place. Service is a spiritual practice. It's saying no matter what, that is God. No matter what, that is God. And instead of good and bad, it's just, maybe in our human way of thinking about it, maybe it's more like, wow, that's harder and this is easier. It's the way it feels, not what it is. Maybe it's more comfortable or more uncomfortable. Yeah, that could be. That could be. But it's about how it feels, not about what it is. So I thought of this example. I thought of the young man who joins a gang. Okay? He joins a gang, he starts stealing, he starts hanging out with his buddies in the gang, and pretty soon he kills somebody. You know, and he's going to jail, and we think, that guy needs help, right? But why did he join a gang in the first place? He joined a gang because he was looking for the same thing you were looking for when you came to Spiritual Soul Center. A place to belong, a place to connect, a place to call home. I read it on your cards. I'm not making this up. All right? This is what you wanted when you came here. The same thing he wanted in the gang. And he found it. And he found it there. But his choices landed him in jail. So how is he any different than me or you? How is he any different than me or you? How can I not look at him and see God? That's a big one. That's a big one, right? For me it is. What about the addict, the refugee, the homeless, the poor, the mentally ill, the sick, the starving, and the jobless? I made a list. The greedy, the narcissist, the dictator, the immigrant, the hate-filled, the holier-than-thou, and the self-righteous. They're no different than you or I. So what if everyone I see as less than in some way, what if they are here for me so that I actually have the opportunity to serve? The opportunity to see God in all that is. Now that, my friends, is the way to grow spiritually, yes? To see that. The whole purpose of service is not to help. The whole purpose of service is not to help. The whole purpose of service is to see God all the time in everything and everyone. That's the purpose of service. So do I serve? Soul Center certainly helps. But do we serve? Do I serve? So I believe that every opportunity to help is an opportunity to serve as well, which is beyond that. One of the great teachers on service is a guy called Swami Vivekananda. Anybody know about Swami Vivekananda? Yeah. I got this book because I don't know when I did, but it was a while back. But Swami Vivekananda was an Indian guru. Here's a story. I want to share a little bit about his story. One morning in early September 1893 we're talking about, a lady named Mrs. George W. Hale, whoever wrote this, we weren't in the times of women's liberation. We don't even know her first name. Her name was Mrs. George W. Hale. Mrs. Hale, thank you wherever you are for putting up with George W. She looked out through a window of her handsome home on Chicago's Dearborn Avenue and saw seated on the opposite side of the street a young man of Oriental appearance who was dressed in a turban and an ochre robe of a Hindu monk. Mrs. Hale was, fortunately, not a conventional woman. If Aubrey was here, I would say unique. Aubrey, she was unique. She did not call the police to tell the stranger to move on. She did not even ring for the servants to go and ask him what he wanted. She noticed that he was unshaven and that his clothes were crumpled and dirty, but she was aware also that there was a kind of royal air about him. There he sat, perfectly composed, meditative, serene, and he did not look as if he lost his way. And indeed, he was quite the opposite of lost, for he had just resigned himself to the will of God. Mrs. Hale suddenly made the most intelligent guess. Coming out of her house and crossing the street, she asked him politely, "Sir, are you a delegate to the Parliament of Religions?" Because in fact, in Chicago in 1893 was the first Parliament of World Religions held, and Swami Vivekananda wasn't even invited. But he showed up in the United States in July, not having realized that the Parliament had been delayed until September, and so he was running out of money, and he had nowhere to be. He had gone to Boston because somebody told him it was cheaper, and then somebody in Boston bought him a ticket back to Chicago. He slept in a train yard the night before. He smelled water, went toward the lake, and ended up in this upscale neighborhood of Mrs. George W. Hale. She was answered with equal politeness in fluent, educated English. The stranger introduced himself as Swami Vivekananda and told her that he had come to Chicago for this meeting of the World Parliaments. So, he had slept in the boxcar. She invited him in, change of clothes, washed his clothes, clean shaven, showered, and Vivekananda, Swami, who was not invited to the Parliament of World Religion, was the most honored and well-received speaker in the whole Parliament. And there were people and men, I doubt there were women at all at this Parliament, speaking on all sorts, from Christianity to Hinduism to Buddhism to shamanism, whatever it is. Most were invited. He was not. He was received with a standing ovation the first time he opened his mouth on that stage, 1893. This is his teaching on service and inspiration to me. He says this: doing good to others out of compassion is good. But the seva, the service, seva, of all beings in the Spirit of the Lord is better. So it's not that we serve and out of compassion, but it's the spirit in which we serve that is critical. That is service. It is our privilege to be allowed to be charitable. It is our privilege to be allowed to be charitable, for only so can we grow. The poor man suffers that we may be helped. Let the giver kneel down and give thanks. Let the receiver stand up and permit. Let the Lord back of everything, every being. See the Lord back of every being and give to him. See the Lord in every being. This is what he taught. Doing work is not religion, but work done rightly leads to freedom. Thank God for giving you this world as a moral gymnasium to help your soul development, but never imagine that you can help the world. Boom! I mean, that's mind-blown emoji right there, right? Because we all assume, and we are good-hearted about it. Like I said, there is nothing wrong with helping. There is nothing wrong with helping. But to help as if someone needs that from me because I am somehow above, because I have more money, because I have more time, because I have more freedom, No, not at all. Are you unselfish? That is the question. If you are, you will be perfect without reading a single religious book, without going to a single church or temple. Lock the door. It is a privilege to serve mankind, for this is the worship of God. God is here in all these human souls. He is the soul of man. Be grateful to the man you help. Think of him as God. Is it not a great privilege to be allowed to worship God by helping your fellow men? Swami Vivekananda, teaching about service. It's not about helping. Serving is so much more grand and more deep than that. So much more so. You know, true service is selflessness. It's only when our ego gets involved that we want to be noticed, we want to be acknowledged, we want the certificate, we want people to know we've been on the team, that our picture is in the paper, right? Like, why didn't anybody thank me? They missed my name. You know, I get accused of that sometimes because I put names in the newsletter, and sometimes I miss a person. It makes me want to not do that because I'm appreciative. Don't get me wrong, because I do appreciate. But service isn't about the ego needing to be stroked for it. That's helping. That's helping. And wanting and needing appreciation. It is backwards. It is backwards. The reward for service is the joy you feel in the God you see and the God within. That's the reward of service. The reward of service is internal. It has nothing to do with what your help actually accomplished. It is irrelevant of that. Your service may have accomplished helping, and I think many times it does. But that's the sidebar. The growth is really for me to know myself as the divine that I am and to know God in everything and everyone. That's the goal of service. It's amazing. That's an amazing thing. Service as an opportunity to feel myself as divine and to see God in all that I see. That's big. It's not about helping at all. All the lack you see, all the people and situations that call for your attention, for your kindness, for your time, for your money, these are gifts to your soul. These are gifts to my soul. Gifts to my soul. It is a privilege to serve. And this is why service is transformational. Service is transformational because it changes me. Not because the outcome looks good, but because it changes me. I'm different. I am transformed. We say that here every Sunday. So that we transform ourselves, our community, and the world. And the transformation of self happens when I walk as God and when I see God in all that is. That's big. That's spiritual work. And along the way, we can help. Right? Along the way, we can help. Vivekananda says this is the gist of all worship. See, sometimes people don't like that word, worship, and I don't like it either. People say, we're going to a worship service. What are you worshiping, in your temple? Here's what Vivekananda says about that. This is the gist of all worship, to be pure and to do good for others. That's it. That's worship. He who seeks Shiva in the poor, God, Shiva is God, right? He who seeks Shiva in the poor, in the weak, and in the diseased really worships Shiva. If you see God in that, that is the worship of God. And if he sees Shiva only in the image, his worship is but preliminary. He who has served and helped one poor man, seeing Shiva in him, without thinking of his caste or his creed or his race or anything, with him Shiva is more pleased than with a man who sees him only in temples. God, can you imagine him talking to the Christians of the day in the United States in this way? Even for us it's a little stinging because we think we're helping. Because we think we're serving, but really are we serving? And maybe we are sometimes. But this is the call to elevate our service always. Always. Our service is for us. The helping part is like I said, the sidebar. That's the sidebar. I was pretty blown away by this week for me. And what I realized is, in the end, is that service is really about love. Service is really about loving. And putting money in the basket or showing up and helping are all good things. But serving is about loving. It's about seeing this amazing divinity. Last week I talked about all, right? It's about seeing that all the time in everyone. Everyone who is the exact opposite of me. Like that is God. How could it not be God? How could it not be if my belief is that there's only one source? So I plant that seed in you and invite you to remember or to ground in yourself this idea of serving and what it means to you. Certainly don't stop helping, but know what it is for you to serve and get yourself in the place where you can practice seeing God, being God in action, being love, for that's who we truly are. Okay? So let's take that into meditation this morning. The only way for me to know this and to know it at depth is to follow that great Bible verse that says, "Be still and know." Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that God is all there is. That's it. There is no greater than, there is no less than, there is no higher or lower, there is no good and bad. There is God. Everywhere, always, in all things, as all things. And so my spiritual practice is to worship that, to love that. So for a few moments, let's sit together in stillness. Vivekananda says, "The God in you is the God in all. If you have not known this, you have known nothing. How can there be difference? It is all one. Every being is the temple of the Most High. If you can see that, good. If not, spirituality has yet to come to you." Amen.
Mother Mountain, hear our song. Help us grow tall and strong. Up to heaven, past the clouds. Mother Mountain, show us how to rise up singing, rise up singing. Mother Mountain, hear our prayer. Hold our hearts and guide us there. Through the forest, over stones. Mother Mountain, bring us home. To rise up singing. take our hands, teach us how we all can stand as one people, as one tribe. Mother Mountain, be our guide. To rise up singing, rise up singing. Mother Mountain, take our fears, soothe our hearts and dry our tears. From your soil